Today I want to talk about you may not see it, but he's moving. You may not see it, but he's moving. And I want to, most of the scriptures will be coming from the book of Exodus. Exodus was when they was exiting, when they was departing, when they was leaving behind something that wasn't great, behind something that kept them in bondage. That's not the God that we serve that has us in bondage. And before I go in Exodus, I just want to read this scripture, John 8:36. If the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. If the Son should make you free, you shall be free indeed. And that's free from everything, from bondage, from addiction, heartbreak, loneliness, finance problems, sickness, whatever it is that may be trying to attach itself to you or may have attached itself to you. God said, you're free in him. You're free in him. He's made you free when you accepted him in your life, and you have to get to know that. And you can't have doubt. I say it all the time, but it's so important. When anything you read in this word is real. I don't care what it says, it's real, and God can do it. And you can't keep letting the adversary talk to you and say, but I'm too far gone, but I'm too old, but I messed up too many times, and he's just not going to do it for me. I believe it can happen, but it can't happen for me. It can happen for you. The word is for all of us. All of us. I don't care what you've done, what you've been through. Just ask him for forgiveness and let him move in your life. He is moving now. He is doing some things behind the scene that you don't see what he's doing. He is moving on your behalf. He sees what you're going through. He knows what the adversary has done to you. He knows you may have messed up over the years, but he also knows where your heart is. He knows you have came to him with a repentance heart, and he wants to turn your world around. He is moving, and you got to trust that, and you have to believe that. And you can see when God moves sometimes it's in your darkest hour. When it's in your darkest hour, when it seems like there is no way. When it seems like there's no way, nothing in my life can turn around because I've messed it up so bad. Because sometimes we mess our own life up. You know, we sometimes, hear people a lot of times pointing finger at the adversary, but sometimes you've messed your life up. Sometimes you've messed it up yourself because you didn't trust God and you didn't stand on his word and you didn't walk in his word and you didn't believe it could take place for you. So you detoured and went someplace he never told you to go because you couldn't believe he could do it for yourself, because you couldn't believe in yourself. You couldn't believe that God created you. You couldn't believe that he made you so wonderful. You couldn't believe that he had wonderful things in plan when he thought of you. You couldn't believe that. So you went out on your own journey thinking you knew a little bit more than what God knew. And then you end up in a dark area wondering, how did I get here? But God's hand is still reaching out to you. He still says, I know what I created for you. I know who you are. And I can get you back to where I've always planned for you to be at. But we have to trust and know that he is moving on our behalf. So I'm going to go over some scriptures. I'm not going to, and I'll say it pretty much every Sunday, but I'm going to say it again. You can't read everything in the church on a Sunday. You can't read all that he wants to say to us. So I give you what God's given to me, and then you need to go home and finish reading it for yourself because he will speak to you. He knows what your need is. Your need may not be my need. My need may not be your need. But we all have different things in life that we either need or things that we want, because sometimes it ain't a need. Sometimes you just want something, But God loves us like that he can fulfill your wants too. He can fulfill your wants too. But whatever it is, God is moving. It's a day and time that he's moving. He's doing something within our life. We don't see it, but he's heard your cries. He's seen your heartbreak. He says, now I'm coming through and I'm moving. And he's moving fast. And I'm telling you, in our house, God has been moving beyond. And he's been confirming things just like this. One person says something, the other one comes through, and then he does it. Before you can even move, he done it. And he's been doing it for probably the last couple months. And I'm like, God is moving. He is moving fast. is moving fast, but know he's moving. And if you're, and I'll say it and I'll say it again, if you're rooted and grounded in him and you love him with your whole heart, you're going to see amazing things take place in your life. But if you're separated from him, you're going to see some things come on your life that you didn't even think exist, because it's moving both ways, to the good and to the bad. You decide what way you want your ball to roll, but it's moving. Nothing is standing still, because we are in the end days, and everything that God has ever said will come to pass, because his word will not fall to the ground. Everything that he says has to take place. Whatever he told you has to take place. Whatever his word says has to take place. And it will have to take place before it's all said and done. So he's moving quick right now. He's moving very, very quick right now. And now doors are going to start to open up in your life. Doors that you thought were shut, boat locked. God said, open them now. This is harvest time. This is harvest time. Things are taking place. And we need to reach in and we need to grab it. But you got to trust and know that he's moving in your life. Just because you don't see it, just because you don't feel it, God is moving on the back end of the side. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Exodus, because Exodus is kind of talking about Moses. You know, those that know Moses was, you know, back in his day when he was born, they were trying to kill all the males that were born. They actually were killing all the males that were born, but Moses' mother hid him. She didn't let that take place to him. So God always had a calling on his life. When God has a calling on your life, can't nobody stop you. I don't care what day and time. I don't care what's taking place. If God has a calling on your life, he has a purpose in your life, you will fulfill that purpose that he has for you. So that's what was kind of taken with Moses at the time. Moses ended up killing somebody. Then he ends up running for his life. So at the age of 40, Moses ran. And he went to the wilderness. And he thought probably pretty much this is where I'm going to be at. He ended up marrying somebody, and that's where he was at. And by the time he was age 80, God said, I'm going to use you. I'm going to use you to let my people go. I'm going to use you to free my people, because I've heard their cry. I've seen what they've been going through. It's time for them to be free. And if you go ahead and you go back a little bit further, you would know back even when he talked to Abraham, he already said those people were going to be in slavery for like 400 and some years, because whatever God says has to take place. So, but now it's time. 400 years is up. It's time to let my people go. Can't hold them no more. I don't care how dark it looked. I don't care how bad your life had been. I don't care who thought they were in control of your life. I don't care who said no, it can't happen to you. God says now it's yes. It's time to get out of here. It's time to start moving to things that are better, things that look brighter. It's time to go. Moses, I want you to go and set my people free. I want you to go and set my people free. Moses is saying, me? Do you realize that I killed somebody? Do you realize I've been hiding here for the last 40 years? I'm 80 years old now. You want me to go set your people free? You know, like we say when God comes to us, don't you know I'm broke now? Don't you realize I'm old now? Don't you realize the best part of my life is over? You want me to do this? I don't know how to do this. And God says, like he tells Moses, you know, I created you. I know you. Because Moses is saying, I can't even speak. I stutter. I can't say words right. Lord, use my brother. He speaks quite well. God said, I ain't using your brother. I'm using you. I'm using you to set my people free. And I know that you don't talk well. How do I know that? Because I created your mouth. It's me that created your mouth. It's me that created your ears. It's me that created your mind. I know what you can do and what you can't do, because I created you to be like this. But if I call you to do something, you have everything you need to do what I've called you to do. And we doubt so often. It is so easy, I find, when I talk to people, to see their negative side. They can tell you everything that's wrong with them, or everything that they think is wrong with them. And it's rare that you hear people that can say positive things about themselves. They can lift people. I mean, people in the church that love God can lift people up, encourage people, and have people knowing they're all that from an encouraged word. But when they have to say something about themselves, they don't see nothing. But God created those that you're encouraging, and he created you. He created you. So when you think negative about yourself, what you're actually saying is, God messed up with me. He didn't give me anything. He created me here to be nothing and a nobody. But everybody else he created to be blessed. But I don't have anything. He created you. He took time out to create you. And I see when I hear the story and I look at the story of Moses, I look at the fact that he just, there for a moment, he had confidence in himself. Actually, when he killed that person, he thought he knew what was going on. You need to do this, you need to do that. But sometimes along our journeys, when doors just seem like they're shut, and nothing's opening up, and nothing's coming your way, you can get to a point that it's like, God don't have nothing for me. I've tried, and I tried, and I tried. There's nothing here for me. And you just kind of just give up and think God overlooked you. But he never did. He loves us like that. And somewhere along the line, like I said, Moses must have said, well, because now all he's saying is, I can't do this, I can't do that, don't use me. And God said, I'm using you. God got a little bit angry with him. You're going, and I'm using you. So he goes there, and he's going there to talk to Pharaoh and to tell him, let these people go. Now, how are you going to a kingdomship or a king or a president? You're going to do this and that. The only way you can do that is if God's sending you. Because in yourself, you are absolutely nobody. But when you know God is sending you, you know you're not walking out in yourself. I'm going to say and do just what God says because I know this is what he told me to do. So he goes there with Aaron. He said Aaron can speak for him, but he's going to talk to Moses, and Moses can talk to Aaron. So they're going there, and they're telling Pharaoh, basically let the people free. And Moses is like, Pharaoh's like, I don't know who your God is, but I am not letting these people go. But God already knew he was going to do that. He already knew he was going to do that. And he knew where Pharaoh's heart was going to be at. So he could actually make Pharaoh's heart, and that's what he said, I'm going to harden his heart. It was easy for him to harden his heart because he knew where his heart was at anyways. So it was easy to make it even harder. He could work with that because he knew he ain't going to want to let him go. So I'm just going to make his heart hard. I'm going to harden his heart more. So when he goes there to actually, talk to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's saying no, and Moses is telling him, well, this is what God's going to do. You don't let him go. He tells him all these things he's going to do. And I'm just going to tell you what he talks about the blood, turning everything, the water and everything to blood. He talks about, now these are plagues. These are plagues that God is putting on these people because they're not letting these people go. First of all, you have to think. When you really know God, you have to think, if I belong to God, and he is my father, and he loves me, and he created me, how can anybody hold me down? How can you have me in bondage? How can anyone say no to me? Do you not know who I am? You can't keep me in bondage. You can't keep me down. You can't tell me no. Do you know who I belong to? So for Pharaoh to even think he can keep God's people, who do you think you are? When God says they're leaving, they're leaving. But God wanted him to know who he was in the process of this. And that's why I said, even though it seems like God is not moving in your life, he's doing some things, because even though he's going to give you what you want, he wants other people to know he's real. Those that love him and those that don't love him. Because, see, God wants both sides to know, I am God. You may be serving the adversary, but you will know that I am God. And if you love me, you're going to know I'm God too, because he was working on both behalves of them. He knows those that was there loving him, and he knows that those that didn't love him. And he says, when I come in here, when I allow all of these plagues to take place, both sides are going to know who I am. So I am going to harden his heart. So every time you go to him, he's going to still say no. So the plagues that he sends was blood, turning all the water to blood, frogs, where they had frogs everywhere, in the kitchen, in the pots, in the pans, in the bed, frogs, just tons and tons of frogs. And every time all of this stuff would take place, then Pharaoh would say, okay, take your people and go, until God would remove it. And then he'd go back to his same evil way. But God knew he was going to do that. Some of the things we do sometimes when we pray to God, and God, can you get me out of this situation? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then he does it, and then you forget he exists, because now you got the job. Now you have the mate that you have. Now you have the child that you always wanted. Now you have the finances that you want, whatever it may be. Now he's healed you or healed somebody else. But now you forget that you said you're going to serve him, or you're going to be good to him, or you're going to be an example for him. You don't need him no more because he's came through. This is what Pharaoh was doing. Pharaoh was telling him he's going to do it. But then soon as Moses would ask for that plague to disappear, you know, he'd do the same thing. So he had the frogs, lice, flies, all the livestock were dying. He put bulls all over their body, that their body just broke out with sickness, like just scabs and just nastiness that broke out all over their body. Hell, he had hell come from heaven to destroy stuff. Locusts that was eating everything up. You know, he had all of that. He had darkness that came where it just got dark. There was no light. God was doing all of these were major plagues. That's why, you know, you can say the adversary, you know, comes and does stuff. But when you remove God from the picture, you're allowing disaster to come on your life. You're allowing. And that's why I said when COVID came, God was a part of that. Because we removed him from the picture. We said we don't need you. We said, let's not talk about it. He can't be in the schools. Look at the schools now. Look at the schools now. When God was in the schools, when I was young, they were praying. We prayed before school started. We had a prayer before. Can't mention it now. When God's not a part of something, it's dead, it's empty, it's total destruction. When God is not in the midst, and I don't care what it is, because he says, apart from me, you are absolutely nothing. You are nothing without him. And when they removed him, you know, and we see what's going on now. But he tells us, it's not a surprise, read the word. He tells you what's going to take place. He told them what's going to take place. Read all through it. You leave me, these are things that's going to take place. Leave me, separate from me. Think you can do it on your own. Watch what happens. He's that same God. He's that same God. But when you wrap yourself up in him, he sees that too. And he protects you. And he walks with you. And he knows how to separate the two. He knows how to separate the two. When these plagues were coming on them, he said, I'm going to make a distinction between both of them. My people, all of this stuff that took place never touched his people. In the same city, you can be on the same block. Your house can be connected to somebody, and a storm can come through and destroy one home and protect yours. God knows how to separate you from what's going on. That's why he says you don't need to live in fear. Yes, the end days are coming, and yes, all this is going to take place, but I know who you are. I can protect you. Hold on to me, because before it gets too bad, and he says this in the end, you know, before it gets too bad, I'm going to rapture my people up. I'm going to take you from all of this. He knows who his people are. You can't play with him. You can't dress like him and talk like him. Your heart's got to be serving him at all times. At all times, because he says you don't know the day or the hour when I'm coming. You don't know when he's going to have something come through. You don't know. If he can have plagues back then, he has them now. If he can have big balls of hell fall from then, he can have it now. If he can have the water turn to blood black then, he can do it now. He's the same God. He can do what he wants to do. We seem to think he's not moving. Oh, he's moving. He is moving, and he sees what you're doing, and he knows what you're doing. And he's saying, I'm on the back end moving things. So those that love God with all of their heart, and you're serving him, and you're thinking nothing's taking place, God said, no, I'm moving now. I'm moving now. I'm on the backside doing things in your life that you start to think could never take place. And so, like I said, as I'm going, you know, and I'm kind of just telling you the story of Exodus, and then I'm going to read some of it. But I wanted you to see kind of what he was doing when he was coming through. And then even after, you know, he's hardening Pharaoh's heart all this time, the people are getting beat more than what they were. That Moses goes back to God and he says, you sent me here to free these people. Now they're really getting abused. You thought they were tormented before. They were beating them before. They were killing them before. Now they're really killing them and torturing them. Why did you send me? What was your purpose in sending me if this is taking place? How do we feel like that sometimes? No, God told us to go someplace, knowing the word says something. We step out in faith, and then all disaster takes place. Why, God? Why did you have me give up this job? Why did you have me sell my home? Why did you have me to leave this person? Why did you have me to do this? Because it's looking a whole lot darker where you're taking me than where I was at. And if you're not cautious, you'll go back to where you came from. If you're not cautious, because it'll look like you are doing absolutely nothing in my life. Yes, I might have been miserable here, but things have gotten so much worse since I started following you. Even it seems that way. It appears that way, but it's not. God's moving on your behalf. He loves the fact that you honor him. He loves the fact that you're serving him, that you're faithful. You cannot be faithful to God, serving him, loving him with your whole heart, and think God is just going to knock you down. And that's not the God that we serve. That's why I said you got to know him for yourself. He loves you more than anyone could ever love you. Not your children, not your mama, your daddy, your man, your wife. God loves you more than anyone could ever love you. And when you think of the love and the depth of his love, think of how much we love our kids or our loved ones. Would we do anything to harm them? Would we do something to harm them? And I'm talking about those that love them. When you love somebody, you want to do your best to help them. Now, sometimes you make decisions, especially for kids, that it don't make sense to them. Why are you saying no? Or why I can't do this? But it's for their betterment. And when God's doing something in our life, it's to help us or to help somebody else or to help both. But either or, he wants everybody to be drawn to him. Everyone. Those that are lost, those that love him. He said, I want you coming my way. He don't want anyone to be lost. He wants us all. Those messed up and those that think they didn't mess up, because we all messed up. He wants all of us. And so, it's looking pretty dark and pretty dim at this moment. And he's like, why? Why did you send me? So, anyways, I'm gonna read some of it, and then I'll talk a little bit back. We're gonna go in Exodus chapter 11. I'm kind of just browsing through it. Exodus 11. Exodus chapter 11. And like I said, read it all for yourself, and then I'm gonna go over to Exodus 14. But I'm kind of just browsing through it. And the Lord said unto Moses, Yet will I bring one plague more unto Pharaoh upon Egypt. After that he will let you go. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thirst you out. And he's telling them, because remember, all these plagues have came. Pharaoh's playing a game back and forth, and he never lets them go. But he said, I'm going to do one more. He said, now, when I do this plague, he's not just going to let you go. He's going to throw you out. He's going to actually throw you out. Because people can play games with you and mess around, but it comes a time they know God's on your side. And then they just go. What do you want? Just go. And that's where they were getting at that point. He said, you're going to do one more plague, because that last plague he was going to do, he said, the firstborn of every household that is not connected to me, I'm going to kill. The firstborn of every household. He said, there will not be not one house that will exist that somebody in the house won't be dead. And when I do that, then they're going to know. At that moment, they're going to just throw you out. Them and everybody else, because they're not going to want no parts of you. Because you think, well, you didn't kill one of my kids, or you didn't kill somebody, or you're going to kill somebody else, just get rid of them. At that moment, they're starting to see God's power in a mighty way. They're starting to see God's power in a mighty way. So he says they're going to thirst you out. He says, speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor and every woman of his neighborhood jewels and silver, jewelry and gold. Not only are they going to get rid of you, you're getting out with wealth. For all the bondage and all the misery you had on me, I'm leaving with something in my pockets. I'm leaving having something, because that's the God that we serve. He'll take from the world and give to his people. You think you got them in bondage. You think you're in control. God said, not only you're getting from it, you're going to have what they had, because it's the God that we serve. Don't look like it at front, but just let God move. That's why you keep trusting him, and you keep praising him, and you keep lifting him up, even when it looks like it's darker than dark. Because I find that when it's in your darkest moment, when it looks like I can't see nothing, I can't do nothing, I don't know where to go, I don't know anything, that's when God steps in. That's where I wanted it to get, when you've given it all to me. Because now you didn't put your hands off it because you can't do anything. Let me work now. Watch what I can do in your darkest moment. And he tells him there, he says, in the midnight hour, watch when I come through. The midnight hour, the darkest part, that's when he comes through. So he's telling them, borrow from, jewelry and silver and everything. And 3 says, and the Lord gave people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man of Moses was very great in the land of Egypt and in the sight of Pharaoh and the servants. And Moses said, thus says the Lord, about midnight, verse 4, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, midnight, in the darkest hour, when it looked like God is not doing anything. They beaten me. It got worse. Here I am, been crying out for years. Do you not hear me? Do you ever say, God, where are you? Do you hear me? Do you not know what I'm going through? You ever ask God that? How stupid is that? To ask God, do you not see me? Do you not know me? Think about what we're saying sometimes. It's like, I guess that's why he says foolishness. When we're not just connected to him, the things we think and do is just nonsense. To ask God, don't you see what I'm going through? He sees you. He knows you. He knows you better than you know yourself. But he says, about midnight will I go out in the midst of Egypt, verse 5, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth on his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of the beast. He's killing the firstborn of everything that's not connected to him. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall it be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how the Lord does put a difference between the Egyptians and the Israel. He says, you're going to know that I am God, and I know how to separate. I am going to kill the firstborn of every house, but not my people. Not my people. I am not going to touch them. You're going to know that God, I am God, and I know how to separate my people. I know how to separate those that don't love me against those that do love me. I know you. Everybody else may not know, but I know who you are. And there comes a separation when God is moving. That's why you don't have to worry about what's happening in the world, because, yes, disasters are going to take place in this world. He already says it, but he knows you. He knows who you are. He knows how to separate you from what's going on. He knows how to do this. And verse 8 says, and all these thy servants shall come down unto me and bow down themselves unto me, saying, get thee out of all the people that follow thee. And after that I will go out, and he will out from Pharaoh. And he went out from Pharaoh with great anger. Basically, Moses went in there and he was telling them, this is what God's going to do. He's coming at midnight. He's going to kill the first of everything. He said, and then you're going to let him out. And he's telling him in a boldness. Moses is being bold to him. Moses is angry now. He's saying, oh, you're going to let him go. You're going to see the God that I serve. And then he says, you're going to know it. And he walks out in anger because he's like, I'm done with you, Pharaoh. Basically, I'm done with you. And 9 says, and the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. Verse 2 said, this month shall be unto the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year unto you. Because now he's basically, this is where he tells them, put the blood, on both posts of their house, protect their house, so that when the death angel comes through, he's going to know. The one that's got the blood covering on is going to bypass your house. Don't go out. You're covered because you're under the blood. That's why you're covered. He's going to know that the blood of me is over you. And basically, it was not going to touch your house. And verse 11 says, and like I said, I'm kind of trying to skim through and tell you the story. Verse 11 says, 12:11, and thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded with your shoes on, feet and staff in your hands, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. He's telling them, okay, this is the final thing now. I'm getting ready to move. I didn't send Moses there. He saw him in the burning bush. I've been moving on your behalf. I was moving when I was talking to Moses in the burning bush way back then. You didn't know I was moving, but I was already telling somebody, move on your behalf. It looked like nothing was taking place, but I was moving even when you didn't know I was moving. I was already preparing something when you didn't think nothing was taking place. And he's saying now, he's telling them, get prepared to leave. Put your shoes on, gird yourself up, get ready to go. And he's telling us, Get yourself ready for when the door opens up. Because if you're not ready, you're going to miss it. You're going to have to be ready when he says, move, move. You've been praying for something for a long time. You thought he didn't hear you. You thought he wasn't doing nothing. He's moving now. Get yourself ready to move. Get yourself in a position when the door opens, you can go through it. Because sometimes doors slide open. And if you don't walk through like an elevator, if you don't walk through when the door is open, you missed it. You're going to wait for the next time because you didn't go through. But see, with God, he's real precise in what he does. And if you wait till you figure it out or till you see it, you're going to miss it. And it's not that he wasn't giving it to you. You didn't trust you could have it. Because if you trust you could have it, you'd have yourself lined up. You know, like I was saying last week, you know, you have to have yourself lined up with him so that you don't miss what he's doing. You have to be in the position. How are you in the position? By being holy, by being faithful, having a forgiving heart, loving everybody, you know, letting his light shine through you, being a child of God, not just sometimes because you don't know 1 second he's going to come through. When you think it's at your darkest moment, that's when he's going to do something, and you're going to end up missing it because you're going to be someplace you shouldn't have been, going to say something that you shouldn't have said, going to not have a forgiving heart to somebody, going to let somebody push your button when you should have just ignored them because you thought he wasn't doing anything because it was at your lowest moment, and he said, that's when I was going to come through, and I came through, and you missed it because you wasn't ready. Because you're not ready when you have an evil heart and a hateful heart, and you're not being giving, and you're not being loving, and you're not being that person that he called you to be. You have to be ready. He's telling them, get ready because I'm coming through, and it's going to be fast. It's going to be fast. So he's telling them, you know, put everything on and tie yourself all up and get your shoes on because when I come through, it's time to go. Right then and there in that moment, because God knew what was taking place. Because even though, and Pharaoh did, when all of them died, Pharaoh said, take them all, just go. Just get out of here. And the people were like, here's my jewelry. Here's whatever you need. Just take it. Everybody wanted them to go. They were giving them, they left wealthy. They just like, get out of here. Because they knew God was working on their side. And they're like, just go. What else is God going to do? He didn't kill somebody in my house, so what else is he going to do? Take whatever you need. They were taking their jewelry off, giving it to the slaves, giving it to them. Get out of here, get out of here. So they're leaving, and they're going. But then after they're going and they're leaving, Pharaoh decides, why did I let my slaves go? Again, because evil people are evil people. You know, they can act nice for a moment, but if you're evil, you're evil. It's like if you're a snake, you're a snake. You might twirl around you for a moment. You might let them rub on, but eventually they're going to bite you because a snake's the snake. At the end of the day, it's still a snake. Whatever it is, if you're evil, you're evil. You may have a smile on your face for a moment, but you are who you are. You're one way or the other. You're of God or you ain't of God. And if you ain't of God, you better watch them because they have good days and they have bad days. So Pharaoh is saying, oh, what did I do? He okay now, you know, he's heard his child died, but now it's like, I didn't let my slaves go. And there was a lot of them. I think it was like 2 million. It was a lot of them. Let's go get them. What did we do? I want them back. They're cooking for us. They're building stuff for us. They're doing whatever we said. Free of charge. We ain't going to pay them nothing. I want them back. But God knew that too because God had already said, I'm still going to harden his heart. I'm going to let them go, but I'm going to harden their heart. And then he tells them, even when they're leaving, he tells them to go a certain way. And the reason God did that, he wanted them to look like they were in bondage, that there was no way out. He was taking them the way where the sea is. So he said they're going to get caught up in the wilderness, and there's going to be no way out because he's going to come and get them. But see, God had a plan. That's why I said when it looks like nothing's taking place, because I find with God, I think God has a lot of humor at times. He just be doing stuff just to see how much we trust him. Like, you know you could have done it that way. And you know you could have used that person. And you know I did not have to go way around here to get there. But that's okay, because I'm praising you in the midst of it. But at times I just feel like he has humor. But could it be that he's just trying to see, do we trust him? Do we believe that he's still in the midst of it? Because he took them in a route that they actually, if he wasn't there, would have been trapped in the wilderness. So they're going their way. They're leaving. They have everything. All of these millions of people, they're leaving. And Pharaoh says, go get them. I want them back. So he gathers all of his people to go after them. And then they start seeing Pharaoh coming towards them. And I think it must be like, I guess here, you know, the land is so flat because on the East Coast we got the hills and the mountains and we don't have flat land. But here, it's like, I know when we were driving out here, things is so flat that you can just see like miles ahead of you, like way ahead. So I'm assuming, you know, they could see them from way back coming towards them, and they're petrified. They're scared because it's like, oh my goodness, you know, what's actually going on? So I'm gonna read a little bit of this, kind of go over something, because I like you to see kind of things yourself. But they're getting scared as God is actually freeing them. And we go to verse 14. It says, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel that they turn, that they'll be encamped by the sea. So that's where I was telling you in the beginning of 1 and 2. He's telling them to go the way that they're basically going to get trapped in there. It says, for Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. God is planning things. He's working stuff out. Don't make sense to us. It don't look like it should happen, but he says his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. He does things different than what we do. So he's deliberately turning them in a way that Pharaoh's going to think, because Pharaoh's like, I know we're going after them, but it's going to come to a time that we're going to catch them because the sea's there. So we know we're going to get them. But this is God's plan. Pharaoh thinks he knows what he's doing, but he's not. God's in control. For Pharaoh will say unto the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land, and the wilderness will shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he shall follow after thee, and I will bring honor upon Pharaoh, upon all the hosts of the Egyptians, may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. He's doing it so everybody can know who he is. God wants them to know who he is. And it was told to the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants were turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? And he made ready his chariots and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, captains over all of one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of the Egypts, and they pursued after them. 9, but the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and chariots. Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army overtook them, encamping them by the sea. Verse 10, and when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes. Behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid, and the children cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt with us to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. Now, they in slavery for 400 years plus. They're being beat. They're being abused, tortured, everything. And now they saying, didn't we tell you we were okay back there? Because it looks dark where you're at. And you forget where you came from. You forget when God's moving you, because in front of you is looking dark and dim. You forget he's taking you from someplace that you didn't have enough. You've been struggling, been working 3 and 4 jobs, doing it on your own. You know, not even when you're working 3 jobs, have enough to get through it. You're hurt, you're miserable, you're empty. God's pulling you from that. And because it looks dark for a moment, you want to give up on God and say, let's go back. I like being there in an abusive relationship. I like being there broke. I like being there when people treated me like dirt. I like working 4 and 5 jobs and still don't have enough to feed my kids. This is where I like being at, because it looks dark at the moment, because you're in a place that you're not comfortable with. People sometimes prefer being in a miserable place that they're comfortable in than the unknown, where God can move and do something new in your life. Well, if you want something new, you got to do something new. If you need something better in your life, you got to do something different than what you're doing. And so God does the other than that don't make sense to us, and we're ready to go back. And we're ready to go back. This is what they were doing. They said, didn't we tell you This is where we want to be. They did not tell him that. But at that moment, they're scared. That's why God says fear is not of him, because fear will make you do something that was never of God. Fear will make you do stuff. Fear will make you lose a blessing because you're afraid to step out, afraid to say yes, afraid to move on. Stay in some place. You're broke, you're miserable, you're empty because you're afraid for God to give you something new. I'd rather be here with somebody that's abusing me than over here waiting for God to send somebody their way that can love me. I'd rather be here struggling with all these jobs than to try a new job because you think you're not qualified for it. You're afraid you're going to look stupid on the job. Afraid to take a blessing that he's going to give you, but you don't think you're qualified for it. That's the fear that the adversary puts on you so you can't step out in a new realm so God can bless you, because we serve a God, he says you're new in him. You ain't that same person. Now I'm taking you to where I created you to be. He's trying to get you back on the path, and we're trying to stay on the side road. There ain't nothing over there. I'm trying to get you where you're supposed to be at, but because it's dark, we afraid. So that's where they were. Anyway, chapter 14, verse 13. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. When God has taken you someplace, you don't have to be evil. You don't have to be hateful. You don't have to try to fight the battle. Pray for that person that's been doing crazy stuff, or whomever, whatever's been stopping you from getting to the next level. Pray for him, but watch what God's doing. Because remember, God started it. God's going to finish it. He does not need your help. He says, stand still and see what God's doing. He says he will fight for you. You're going to see what's going on. And the people that's been coming against you all these years, the adversary, the enemy, watch, I'm getting ready to destroy him. Watch what I'm doing. Stand still and know that I'm God. Stand still and see what I'm doing. And this is what he's telling, because now Moses, who was delivering them, remember, this is Moses who was delivering them. He's getting a little iffy right now. So he's telling them, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. 14, the Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. 15, and the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they may go forward. Now, Moses is the leader. You didn't see all the plagues that took place. You seen him speaking to you in the burning bush. You seen with your own eyes all that God was doing. But now you getting weary. Now he crying out to God. Because he says, he's telling Moses, and the Lord said unto Moses, where are you crying unto me? Speak unto the children to go forward. Why are you standing here crying to me about what's going on? Just tell him to move. He's starting to have doubt, because sometimes things get so dark. Even those that are rooted and grounded in God is like, but where are you? How can you do this? But that's when we think on him, and that's why you say you get to know him. It's like, but he's God. He can do it all. That's when you stand back and don't doubt him. It's like, let me see what my God's going to do now. Let me see what he's getting ready to do, because he's getting ready to show up and show out, because you're doing too much to me. Too much has came against me. I know I'm serving him. I know I'm living right. I know who my Father is. Oh, let me see what he's going to do, because you didn't stepped over the line just a little bit too far. That's what you should be saying, not like, oh, my goodness, where are you? Where are you? Why is this happening? Crying and boo-hooing. This is what Moses did, the one who's seen everything. And God says, why are you crying to me? Get up and tell him, to go forward. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore thou criest unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel that they go forward. But lift thou up the rod and stretch out thy hand over the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get my honor upon Pharaoh and upon all his hosts, upon his chariots and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed from behind them of the pillar of cloud, and went from behind their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them, but he gave light by night to these, so that one came near, so one that couldn't come near all that night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on the right hand and on the left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all the Pharaoh's horses and his chariots and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watched the Lord look unto the hosts of the Egyptians through the pillar of the fire, the cloud, and troubled the hosts of the Egyptians, and took off their chariots' wheels, and they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against an Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thy hand over the sea, that thy waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. 27. And Moses stretched forth their hand over the sea, and the sea returned in his strength. When the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots, and the horsemen, and all the hosts of Pharaoh, that they came in the sea after them. There remained not one so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. And so when you see all of that, you see how God was doing something on the backside, even though it looked like he was doing nothing, that he didn't see nothing, that he didn't hear nothing, but he saw everything, and he was moving. He started at the burning bush. When they didn't know nothing was going on, nobody knew what was going on except Moses. God was setting up a plan so that both sides would know who he was. Because at the end here, remember, all of those that were coming against him, they're dead, But those that are still alive, loving him, he said, now they believed him, and now they're believing Moses. Because remember, they had doubt too. They loved God, but they're doubting because when they were caught in darkness and they didn't know which way to go, they're wanting to go backwards. So even though you can be rooted and grounded in God, if you're not cautious, fear and doubt will come in, and you will doubt the God that you're serving. So you have to always keep your trust and your belief in him, knowing that, even though it don't look like he's doing nothing, he's moving on your behalf. And he's moving now, and that's why it's going to be in your darkest hour when it looks like there's no way he can come through for me. But no, it's your harvest time. It's going to look like there's nothing out there. But no, it's time. You keep moving. You keep trusting. You keep praising him. You keep lifting him up because he's doing something. He is doing things that you don't see that he's doing. He was moving on their behalf, and everything that he did looked like, well, where is he at? Where are you at? But he said, I'm doing this. So both sides, those that don't believe in me, going to know how powerful I am, and those that believe in me are going to know how powerful I am, because I need you more rooted than what you are, because doubt keeps coming up in your life. And you can't, God can't move in unbelief. He can, but he don't all the time. If he does, that's his grace and mercy, because a lot of things you miss out because you can't believe that he's doing anything for you. But you have to know, he said, it's a day and time. Know that I'm moving. Even though it looks like I'm not doing anything, he's starting to exit you out of situation. You're starting to depart from things that you wondered, how can I ever get out of this mess? How can I get to another level? How can my heart be healed? How can this sickness leave? How can this change? He says, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm exiting you from a dark situation, and I'm going to do it in the midnight hour when it's the darkest. I'm going to wait till it gets so dark, because when it gets so dark that you can't see, people are looking at your life too, saying there's no way you're going to get out of this. That, you know, you're just in this, you're doomed forever, because everybody that appear to be in your corner ain't always in your corner. Sometimes people want you to fail. Some people is kind of happy on the inside when you didn't get that promotion. They're like, oh man, you didn't get that? Wow. But on the inside, like, you shouldn't have got it. Why should you got it? You da-da-da-da-da. Everybody ain't in your corner that claim that they're in your corner. Everybody ain't rooting for you. Everybody's not praying for you. Everybody don't want you to succeed, but God does, because he created you for a purpose. But he is going to let things happen in your life at a dark moment, so that, you know, those people that ain't for you, those that don't care about you, they're going to see when he takes you forward. They're going to know he's God too, because remember, he wants them all. They're going to know that had to be God. There is no way you could have went from this to this without God. They're going to know who you're serving. And that's why he allows it to be your darkest moment, so that those that don't love God can serve him, and those that do love, but because they're looking at your life. They're looking at your life. That's why you can't let go. If you say you love God, hold on and just trust him. No matter what it looks like, no matter what it sounds like, no matter what it seems like, know who you're serving. Know who you're serving. But in order, again, for things to move in your life like they were moving in their life, you first got to accept him into your heart. You got to know he is who he says he is. And all you got to do, and again, and I say it because I keep saying that, because people seem to think sometimes they're too far from God and God can't reach you. He can reach you. He came for those that are hurt. He came for those that are all messed up. That's who he came for. He didn't come to condemn you. He came to save you. So he came for the lost, the empty, and the broke. That's who he came for. So if that's you, he wants you. But all you have to do is accept him into your heart. You got to first say, God, I'm sorry for everything I may have said, thought, or done that was not in you. I repent unto you. And remember when you repent, you're turning away from what you're doing. And you're asking him to help you, whatever it is you may be doing that's not right. And sometimes it's hard to get out of things. Ask him to help you. Try to turn from your wicked ways and ask him to help you and say, God, you know, I want you into my life. I believe that you died and you rose on the third day. I accept you into my heart. Speak it out of your mouth, you know, and let him have his way. And then he's going to show up in your life, and you're going to see doors open in your life that you thought were closed, bolted shut, locked down. They're going to fly open, and you're not going to have to do it. He's going to do it. And people are going to see just what he's doing in your life, and it's going to happen in your darkest moment. And some of you are in your dark moment right now. Praise God.